I'm going to teach you how to spot whether or not someone is manipulating you who is a narcissist. Now, this is something that's happened to me personally, and I missed and dismissed all the intuitive information that was telling me this person was not safe. And I know right now you're saying, how can a professional psychic like yourself, who specializes in reading people, end up in a narcissistic relationship? And that is the exact question you should be asking me. And this is something that I teach. So if anything, this relationship that I had with this person taught me that if we do not understand our mind and our psychological process and the distortion it creates, it will block our intuition when we need it the most. So for me, with the experiences I've had, what my mind does is it pushes away fear and danger to replace it with connection. So if there's an opportunity for me to connect with someone, to have closeness, to have nurture and care, my mind will dismiss, minimize, and hide any intuitive information that's coming in that tells me this situation is not safe. Now, when I started to understand that that's what my mind did, I could do work around it, create separation from it, see it when it comes in, so I can always come back to my intuition and trust what's true, not the distortion that my mind is trying to convince me of, because it wants connection. So this is another reason why I harp on so much about doing emotional work and looking at your trauma and how it's playing out in your relationships. I have become a ninja at understanding the difference between my mind and my intuition, so much so that it's exactly what I teach my students. It's what I specialize in. So let's get into it. How can you spot a narcissist, and what signals and signs are you ignoring that your intuition is telling you? So let's start at the beginning, the introduction. Your intuition is reading and picking up on so much information when you first meet someone. But we are taught to listen to logic, practicality, and the mind. And we often ignore the signals of the body and when our intuition is coming in, giving us a warning. So this guy reached out to me on Instagram. Now, why this is relevant is because Facebook was my main source of connection, promotion, advertisement. Instagram, if you've been on my Instagram, I hardly have any followers. It's just not a platform where people engage with me very much. And he found me on Instagram and messaged me and said, hey, I'd love to do a swap with you if you're interested in what I offer, and if you'd like to do a reading for me in exchange, I'd love to do that. The first thing I thought, the first thing that came in was, how did he find me? And it wasn't like oh, how did he find me? It was there's something not right about how he's found me. But my mind immediately came in and dismissed it. During this time, the day that he reached out to me, I had just signed my divorce papers. So I was a mess. I was vulnerable. I was really alone. I didn't have anyone caring for me or nurturing me or offering me space. So when he reached out, my brain went, nah, he looks like a really lovely guy. Let's connect with him. Let's get some body work from him. Let's make you feel okay. So this is where my trauma comes in. My trauma pushes away, dismisses, suppresses fear for connection. It clouded my intuition. It was louder than my intuition and took control immediately. So I responded, yeah, that sounds amazing. I really need XXX right now. I think that would be really beneficial for my health. Give me your phone number. Here is the second bit of intuitive information that I pushed away. When I was talking to him, we were discussing like the swap, what would be involved. And then I casually mentioned, I've been going through a lot of emotional experiences and I really need some care. Like I need to look after my body. And he went, oh no, that's no good. What's happened? And I told him that I'm just going through a divorce. So that information, he clocked onto that. And then he said to me, oh, It sounds like you need someone to talk to. Why don't you just come to my place and I'll make you some nourishing pumpkin soup and we can just hang out and chat. My intuition came in strong. I felt like this, oh, in the body. And then my intuition said, that's really fast. You don't know who he is. But my brain came in, pushed it away and went, oh my God, someone's caring for you. Someone wants to cook for you and make you feel special and seen and heard. That's a great idea. Let's fast forward to me being at his house. There are two main things that I missed. We're sitting outside on his deck and we're eating pumpkin soup. And I've been there for about half an hour. When we sit down, he launches into this campaign about his ex-girlfriend and how his ex-girlfriend was a sociopath and she was super abusive and super manipulative. Like he really wanted me to believe this story about his ex-girlfriend. And I remember a thought coming in my head, like my intuition came in and went, why is he trying to convince me of this? That was the thought. My brain immediately came in, grabbed the intuitive thought and went, oh my God, he's being so vulnerable with you. He must really like you. And dismissed it straight away. And I also noticed in my body, as he was telling me, I started to get more and more anxious. Like I had a fear response come up in my body. But what my mind told me was, oh, you're just nervous because he's so good looking and he's so charming. I completely dismissed that I was in fear and mistook it for I'm just nervous. He then took me for a walk to a waterfall around the corner, and we were sitting on the cliff face looking out at the waterfall. It was beautiful. And he was sitting next to me, and then all of a sudden he got up, and I remember the goosebumps went up my body. Like, oh, what is he doing? Like, that's what my intuition said. Like, my body went into, holy shit, am I safe? And he sat behind me and he put his arms around me like this. And my whole body responded. I felt so uncomfortable. And what I did when I noticed how uncomfortable and unsafe I felt, I went, oh, you just feel uncomfortable because you have your period. I dismissed it and I blamed myself when my whole body was like, he's not safe. This is not okay. You feel really uncomfortable. Like, don't let him do this. He never asked for permission. He's just met you and now he's trying to touch you. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. I stayed friends with this person. I ended up in this very toxic, abusive relationship. We became very dependent on each other. He would constantly be calling me many times a day to get me to tune into something psychically, to answer his questions. He became very reliant on my psychic abilities, and I became very reliant on the connection, having someone care about me, tell me I'm special, believe in my abilities. I was giving him psychic information whenever he needed it, and he was giving me attention. So I got really addicted to that cycle. These are the symptoms that I ignored throughout our relationship, and it was very, very toxic. It went from romantic to friendship to romantic to friendship. It cycled in and out of it depending on how much he wanted to manipulate me. 6 months into our friendship, relationship, whatever you want to call it, I started to have severe panic attacks. Now, I used to have panic attacks when I was in high school, but nothing in my adult life. With him, I started to have them on a regular basis. And whenever I would talk to him about that and say, hey, I'm having these experiences where I'm having panic attacks, he would dismiss me, downplay it, say that I was mentally ill, say that I needed to go to get therapy, that it had nothing to do with him. He would constantly put it back on me and blame me. And funny enough, when he did that, I went, oh, okay, there is something wrong with me. I do need to get help. And I started going to therapy, and it just blew the lid on all of this. I started to get real help from someone that wasn't involved in the dynamic, that was explaining to me what the hell was going on and why I couldn't see it, because I was in a trauma response the whole time and I wasn't aware of it. So these panic attacks were a signal of the suppression of the fear that he was creating in my system that I completely ignored ongoing until eventually it became overwhelming. So I was ignoring the exhaustion and the panic attacks, and then eventually I got help. When you find yourself going, oh my God, how did they end up in a relationship like that? It's because they've never dealt with the part of their mind that creates distortion because it's desperate for connection. What you want to look out for is the voice that comes in first. And it usually just says a really small sentence. That's odd. That's weird. How did he find me? Why did he say that? We always get these little intuitive hits that are doorways. What our intuition is doing, it's questioning reality because it's picking up on dysfunction. If you grew up in a household that was very dysfunctional, you may not see dysfunction as clearly as you think because the dysfunction becomes familiar. So when we find ourselves in very dysfunctional relationships and we don't realize, it's because the dysfunction is what we've known and we don't know anything else. So this is why it's so important to understand the dynamics that you grew up with and what you know about relationships. My brain constantly justified the signals that my body was giving me. So this is the other really interesting thing. What I learned was my mind would constantly distort, push away, and ignore the signals that were coming up through my body and those little intuitive hits that were coming in straight away, really quick. My mind would grab them, take them away, justify it, dismiss it, and then blame myself. Now, the really hard truth about this is I had to take ownership for the co creation. A lot of the times we hear people going, I was in a narcissistic relationship and they just completely blame the other person. But I ended up in that for a reason. I wasn't taking responsibility for my own emotional process and what I knew about healthy, safe relationship dynamics. Because if I'm being truly honest with myself, he wasn't the first person that I ended up in an abusive cycle with. That relationship dynamic had played out previously, but I never got any help or got curious about how did I actually end up in that? What was I doing rather than just blaming the other person? So thankfully, he actually encouraged me to get therapy, which was absolutely life changing because I needed to go to therapy so I could see how I ended up being friends with someone like that, what I was suppressing and ignoring and pushing away so that I could have connection because I was so desperate for nurture and nourishment from someone else. So, what I would encourage you to do would be to reflect on relationships you feel that were abusive or toxic and think about what were the signals and signs that you pushed away at the start, that you ignored. What was the little voice? What was it saying to you? So that next time when the voice comes in again, you'll listen to it. When you feel the fear response in the body, you'll pay attention because your body can't lie to you. Your intuition is your source of truth. Your mind is distorted. So remember, listen to the intuition, feel into your body, slow down. And you'll start to see when people are trying to manipulate you and take advantage of you. And then you won't end up in these types of situations. So feel free to share your own intuitive experiences, what you missed, what you've learned, and what you'd like everyone else to know to look out for so they too can grow and develop really healthy, safe relationships in their life.